Hey, how's it going? This is Kayaz, and I'm just going to be talking about something that's very interesting, which is the elements of African spirituality. And this is something that is linked to the first civilizations in the earth because everyone is linked to the kingship that is of African descent, and everyone has their own heritage, inheritance, and excellence. But in Africa, we had our own understanding of spirituality. So the reason why this video is so important is because after the colonization of Africa, a lot of people lost their own identity, and the understanding of what spirituality was lost due to that fact that when all of these things were happening within the world, the African context, the colonists were able to take the culture of the people and render them with amnesia. So they gave people amnesia and they actually forgot the roots and the elements that they actually understood as the basis of their own understanding in the world that they were living in. So So when the settlers came to Africa, it actually happened in waves. There were Arab people who came as traders. There were other people from Portugal who came as traders, and there were British people who came as traders. So when these people came, they all had different intentions, especially depending on the resources that were available in different areas within Africa. So the German people, French people, all of the different people came in different areas of Africa. And through this, they were able to acquire certain land rights through mining and through forgery. This is what happened, that they would tell the leaders that they're saying something in a document. And since there's a language breakdown, the leaders won't be able to understand exactly what is in the document. But in the African tradition, the African belief system, the African way was that a person's word is his bond. A person's word is gold. So this is how we had oral tradition, because when someone says something, they don't lie. So we never expected anyone to lie. So you never expect anyone to lie. So this is how we actually translated our history, our information, and our teachings. This was all oral. And this is the same thing that the Germans used to do, that they had oral history. And the Germans actually share a lot in common with the African ancestors, their African ancestors, and that they're actually living in the woods. They actually had oral tradition. They didn't write anything down. They didn't live in boxes or houses. So so when you have the basic understanding that our words have always been linked to God, that when you speak something, you put it into existence. And this is a basic understanding that we have. So through proverbs, through understanding, through our words and our actions, we've always been able to translate information that is pure truth through our words. So when you say something, you mean it, and when you write it down, you double mean it. So this is what the trickery came from, and this has been perpetrated because through these systems in Africa today, because after this whole situation happened, the same elements or the same foundations of this false system, the false ideology that stole land from people. The false ideology created these countries. So the false ideology is still the foundation of African countries. So this is why a house built on sand cannot stand, because the foundation of every African country is based on a lie. Because all of them are using constitutions that are European in descent and African in practice, which is really it's really not right, because it's just like if you look at China, they have their own constitution, their own ways, because they're Chinese, and through that they have their own way of articulating, and this is why they're taking over the world, because they were able to develop without the interference of other parties in the same manner that happened in Africa. So putting that aside, the spirituality aspect is the one that is most important, most crucial, and the one that was the highest biggest loss. So understanding that the people of Africa had an understanding of who God is, and not just the gods, but actually God. In my country, this is how I have always grown up, always knowing that there's a God. So in the African creation story, it's very much like Adam and Eve. But in the African creation story, you have a person who's called Mwetsi, right? You have the first man, who is the first man on earth. And then this first man is actually called the moon. And then this first man, Mwetsi, the moon, has the first wife who is called the morning star. And then this is his first wife. He has another wife who is called the evening star. So with this we have so many elements. First of all, we have the sun, the moon, and the stars, because the moon is a reflection of the sun. So Mwari is the one God who created everything. So this one God is the light that shines. We call that Chiedza, which is akin to the word for sound, which is sonic, which is sun. So from this Chiedza we have light, which is Chiedza. So this is the same sonic resonance that we have with light and sound, just like the sun, S-O-N, and the sun is sonic, S-O-N-I-C, right? And then the sun is also the S-U-N, the same sonic resonance with that and that. So the same thing is happening here. So in the African creation story, what you have is the sun, the moon, and the stars, because the sun is who created, right? And then the moon is the reflection, which is the first man. And then this moon is called Munu, which is a person in Bantu. So this sun is this moon is the first person, and in the same way that M-O-N turns into M-A-N, man, moon, a man. So woman or man is from that moon. So this is the same resonance that we have. So in the English language, we have all of this being a particle in certain words, like saying Monday, which is just a moon day, right? So the M-O-N is also where we get monster, which is the legal definition according to Black Law's dictionary of what a person is, a monster. This is crazy, but you can check it out. So monster is moon and star. So this is crazy, but then this is what it is. So so when you actually look at it and you see this understanding that they're legal people, then they're fictional people, then they're natural people. So as a natural being, of course, we're not monsters, but what it means is that the man is the mon. Okay, so just understanding this and looking deeper into it in your own time, you'll see the semblance with the man and the moon. So in the African creation story, you have the sun, the moon, and the stars, and through this you have the elements that create the universe. And also what you have is the morning star and the evening star, right? So already we're thinking of this cosmically, and this is in the African setting, right? So we're thinking of this cosmically, and you have the different stars, right? And through this you have them being in their own places, morning and evening. So now you have the duality of night and day, and then through this duality you have male and female, and you now have the whole principle of creation, because through this duality now you have mating, and through mating you have sex, you have matrix, and you have everything that is created, because everything is sex. So understanding that everything is sex because of the duality, then you understand that. But then the duality came in two ways. There was a man and a woman, and then there was a man and another woman. So this duality was doubled. So this is interesting in scope when you actually look at the story. So when we look at the African spirituality, what used to happen in Africa is that the Africans have always understood the presence of God, right? The one God, which was a monotheistic God. So this is me speaking from my own background, which is how we've always grown to know that there is a God. So through this, we've always understood the elements that there is an ancestor. So an ancestor is someone who just basically comes before you. So an ancestor is someone who planted a tree under whose shade you sit. So ancestors are part of our family tree. So we are appreciative of the shade that they provide, because we didn't plant the tree, so someone planted it before us. So it just didn't happen like a big bang, but there was a person who did that. So we have to always understand the roots in order to get the fruit. So we've always understood the ancestors, and at the same time we've always understood that this is compatible with the understanding of God, or one God, because the ancestors are people who are just before us, because they are the people who gave us life. So directly, the person who gave me life directly is my ancestor. But then in actuality, or in truth, the person who gave me life is God. So knowing this hierarchy in the spiritual realm, or knowing this natural phenomenon, is where we get the whole idea of ancestry. So the Africans have always understood their ancestors. So given this idea, which I actually go into in a video called The Ancestors, which I talk about in detail about the ancestors and how they actually work, and this is also linked with some other aspects. So when we look at African spirituality, the thing that you have to realize is that it deals with the four elements. So there's a fifth element which is always the ether. So the ether is God. So this is a fifth element. But we deal with the four elements, right? The four cardinal points, and the four seasons. You know, the 4 years, we have a leap year, the 4 blood types, the 4 tastes, all of these things. So when we have this 4, we also look in Christianity that we also have the 4-letter God, and the presence of 4 in Christianity is very powerful, and it actually resembles or signifies God. So 3 is 4 and 4 is 3. So this I actually get into in a video called Miracle Numbers. So when you want to know about this in detail, how 4 is 3 and 4 and 3 is 7. So understanding this is something that is pretty amazing. So we have the 4 elements. So we have earth, wind, fire, and water. Okay. So all of these elements are represented through different aspects of our being. So all of these are represented through different actions, or through different things that people do. Okay, so in this video I'm just going to give you a brief understanding of all of these 4 elements. Okay, so the elements that are there are earth. Okay, so when we talk about earth, we talk about the earth spirits. So the Africans have always understood the earth spirits as people who are of the earth, or people who are hunters. So there is a person or a spirit or an element that is representing the earth, and this element is called the hunter. So this hunter is a person who is on the earth. So through the earth they are able to hunt, because every animal that you find is on earth. So through this understanding, they have been able to depict this as dominantly a male type of spirit, or a male type of element. So I'll call it an element because already we talk about God, and we talk about ancestors, and all of these are spiritual influences, because through everything in the African creation story, God was influencing a person's decisions. The woman, the stars were influencing this person's decision. So in the same way, these elements influence a person's decisions. So they understood this, and the earth was representing a hunter, right? And then we have fire. Okay, so now the fire represents the ancestor. So we have the fire, which is the root of the person. So this is the flame of the person. This is your heat, your energy, your vitality, your initial heat, like your heat signature. This is the fire, and this is the ancestor. So this is what we call your root, or your actual source of energy. So everyone's source is heat. So through this heat, we have fire, because when you have fire, you have something that is dark, black, and it burns, right? So fire burns black, and through this darkness, or through this indigenous, which is indigo. What is indigenous? What is black? Indigo is like blue, black. So what is black in you? What is and black is not bad. Black is beautiful, right? And what is black in you? What is the thing that burns? Because when you burn a candle, it's black, and then that produces fire. And God is the Father of lights. So we're talking about Father of light. So this is about the fathers. This is about the ancestors. So this is the fire. And it's called the fire because through this they actually are able to punish and things like that. So they make you see fire, so stuff like that. So there are a lot of problems because of the fire, because a lot of people go to people who ask about and they're just concerned about their ancestors, like, oh, why are they so mad at me? Because they're always burning hot, they're always angry and stuff like that. So this is just actually speaking about this element, and this is how you should actually see it. So so this is the earth, which is the hunter, the fire, which is the ancestor, and then we have the water, which is interesting because it's a mermaid. So in the water, because everyone else is made of water, this is actually a water spirit. So this is actually crazy, and this is just actually how I actually discovered it, that the mermaids live in water, and they have the knowledge from before the flood, and in every place there was a flood. So they have the knowledge of what happened before the flood, so they have this special knowledge. And on top of that, they also have special powers and things like that. But then they represent the water because everyone is a water body. So this represents this type of element. It's an element, okay? So so when we have this, we have that being the spirit which resides in water bodies. So so this is like a fish spirit. So the same way that Jesus is represented by two fish is the same way that this is an element, or the same way that they're called fishers of men, the same way that there is no Jesus after after they put the letter J into the alphabet, which is where my name comes from. But this is a relatively new name because he was called Yeshua, right? He was actually not called Yeshua. He was called Emmanuel by an angel, but no one calls him Emmanuel. But he has a J in his name. This is representing the fisher hook, and this is representing, I will make you fishers of men. So this fishing is actually representing wealth. This is representing cash flow, prosperity, and this is what it actually is. And this is the hook on the name of Jesus. This is actually a new meaning of the word of Jesus, and this is how he got his name, that he is the fisher of men. He made them fishers of men, and all of this. And then this is the element that is tapped in through the water, and everyone is a water body. This is how they made fishers of men. So this water element is able to to move among the people, or is able to move in the element of any water body. Okay, so and then the fifth and final element is air, and air just represents the forces. So in the garden you have Adam, Eve, a tree, and forces, four forces. So four is the forces. So forces, the airs. So this is just representing the spirits. So we've always understood that there are spirits out there. So these spirits are good and these spirits are bad. So in all of this, I'm just talking about the African understanding of what the world is. And I'm not saying that you should start doing this, but this is the understanding of it. And everything has the good and the bad. So this is where we get that duality again. So we've always understood that there are forces, or mepo, or air, or these winds. The winds that Jesus had to calm down because they were supernaturally created, because he was going into a different region. And in this different region, when you read the story where he was going, there was a person with a legion, and this legion actually told him to get away. So he actually went away. But then it was because it was supernaturally created, because it was a force. So these winds, or these airs, or these energies are roaming. So we've always understood that these are elements that are found within the world, and this is the battle that we wage. So so there is the hunter, there's the mermaid, there is there's the ancestor, and there are forces, there are heirs, the things that we can't see, we can't touch, but we have evidence of, because you can hear the wind, and you can hear the wind speaking, like the wind actually has a voice, it whistles. So we've known all of these things, and we've known these four elements, and how the people of old were able to relate these stories and how they were able to translate it was actually lost. And this is just something that is important for a person to know, because it's part of a person's heritage. Because through knowing this, you know that they were not evil people or people with evil intentions, or were they? Because the only way that we were told that they were evil is because the colonists who came and settled told us that. But then this is a decision that I had to make on my own to see if it was good or bad. But then from my understanding, I know that in everything created, it is created through God, and this is my understanding from my culture and my background. And God has always been there, and the light of God has always been there, because the moon, Mwezi, the first man, is a reflection of the light. So we've always been made in his image and likeness, and this is what the African creation story tells me, that we're all made in the image and likeness of God. And now we have all of these different understandings. So this is just how the African spirituality was. So it was based on this duality, it was based on male and female, it was based on four elements and these four principles. And this is how we have let there be light. 4. So through this, we also have people who don't even eat things with 4 feet because of this understanding. This is a person with the traditional understanding. So what makes a person good, what makes a person bad? It is the forces, or it is the spirits that are in the person, or the spirit that a person is in. So when you go to like a club, you're in a different spirit. So these forces are actually making you do stuff. When you go to a church, you're in a different spirit, and these forces are actually making you do stuff. So understanding that it's all about the forces, it's all about the spirits. And I say this in plural because everyone is a spirit who has a body. So it's all about those spirits that you surround yourself with, and also the spirits that are just generally in your vicinity, the spirits that you allow into your life, and the spirits that you actually drink and call alcohol. These are all spirits. So the African way of understanding was always a way that is linked to wisdom and understanding. And I think the craziest part about all of this is the part about mermaids, I guess, because a mermaid has always been something that's mystical. But through this understanding of that they actually knew that there are these spirits that are in the water, just like the Greeks knew about Poseidon, just like how David knew about Leviathan, just like how all of these things can be good and can be bad. And all of this is Jonah, how he actually understood how he was in the water and all of these things like that. So understanding that all of these elements are embodied in these principles. So these principles are embodying or are an articulation of what they used to see the world as, and how they actually understood the world that is around them. And this is how they best saw fit to explain everything, and how they actually demonstrated it through their own practices and their own ways, which are completely lost. So not completely, I guess, I don't know, maybe not, but then these ways are not the ways that we now use. So this is just an understanding of what all of this is. And some of these things might be new or not new, but all of this is old information, ancient information that has to be articulated in a way that brings growth and a different mindset to everyone who hears this. So I appreciate your time to listen to this and to watch this, and I hope that this enriches your life in a very positive way, and just stay full of love. Thank you a lot.